I'm your cult boyfriend, counting down the top 10 teen movie villains. It's going to be brief. I'm going to quickly explain why I love each and every one of these teen movie villains. I love teen movies, they're great. Villains are awesome. Let's go into the list. At number 10, Jennifer from Jennifer's Body. Megan Fox was outstanding in this film. I think it's the best thing Diablo Cody ever did. And through Jennifer, we're able to play with certain like pop feminist ideologies as told to us through a celebratory gore fest. Also able to play with Megan Fox, the living sex symbol herself, weaponizing her erotic components or erotic qualities, weaponizing her sexiness, her sex appeal, and punishing all the boys. I think Jennifer's Body is a really cool movie, and I think that Jennifer was an extraordinary villain, a great villain to start our top 10. Megan Fox was outstanding in the role. At number 9, Regina George from Mean Girls. Rachel McAdams was ah, extraordinary, dude. She was so good in Mean Girls. Regina George is hilarious. Regina George is, as the title of the film would have you believe, mean. She's ironically inspiring, and she's just, damn, she's so fucking fun to be around. Mean Girls is an extraordinarily good movie. I think that Mean Girls is excellent. Like I told you, this would be a brief, really quick list, so you get it. Fucking Regina George. Who would disagree with Regina George being on a top 10 teen movie villains list? She basically defined villainy for a millennial, for millennial generations, for my generation, 2004. Like, Regina George is a cultural milestone unto herself. Number 8, Courtney Shane, Rose McGowan in Jawbreaker. Jawbreaker is wow, it's such a good movie. And Rose McGowan's Courtney is some demon goddess who I love being around. It's a beautiful black comedy. I think that Courtney is just so magnetic, so electric. I love being around her. I love watching her do despicable, evil, dirty things. She's perfect. At number 7, Evil Ed from the original Fright Night, Stephen Jeffries. Wow. With Evil Ed, we get to do something really fun. We get to weaponize the 80s geek, the 80s loser. We get to weaponize outsider qualities. We get to even play around with the idea of sexuality in a pretty large way, with queerness, and weaponize those things. Evil Ed is one of the best teen movie villains ever. I love when he gets the cross burned into his head. It makes him look absolutely satanic. And I think it has a lot to say about the 80s outsider, about the 80s loser. Evil Ed is a thrilling, an absolutely thrilling bad guy. Evil Ed makes the movie. You're so cool, Brewster. Like, he makes that movie. He makes the movie deep to interact with in any considerable way. Like, the only tragedy within the film is the tragedy of Evil Ed, is the weaponization of the 80s loser, the 80s outsider, and just how positively horrific the ultimate expression of the 80s freak can be. And that's Evil Ed to the core. Number 6 is Carrie White from Carrie. I think Carrie is phenomenal. You can easily argue that Carrie is the hero of Carrie. You can do that if you have a certain kind of mentality about it. I like to view Carrie as the first cinematic Columbine kid, like the first evil teenager who decided to kill all of her classmates. Like, Carrie paved the way for Scream, paved the way for urban legend, paved the way for a lot of horror films that had some commentary to provide about teen ultra violence. And just like Evil Ed previously, we are weaponizing the outcast, weaponizing the geek, but there's something more immortal or everlasting about Carrie. Whereas Evil Ed, I think, is uniquely and hyper specifically belonging to the 80s. Like he conforms to 80s stereotypes of freaks and losers. Carrie feels a bit more timeless. And I think there's a Carrie inside every girl, within every kid who's ever been ridiculed and humiliated by her peers or abused and brainwashed by cult-like parental figures. You know, because Carrie also has a lot to say about religion and about conservative parenting. It has a lot to say about a lot of different things. Carrie is a masterpiece. It's a Brian De Palma masterpiece, and Sissy Spacek's performance in it is one of the most legendary of all time. That look, the look that's actually in the poster behind me is one of the most uh, terrifyingly morbid expressions I've ever seen. At number five, we're not out of the 80s yet. We have David from The Lost Boys, played by Kiefer Sutherland. What I love most about the films of Joel Schumacher are explorations of queerness. And through David, we get to heavily interact with the legacy of degeneracy or with the legacy of youthful liberation, youthful rebellion. There's a great part of The Lost Boys where he convinces Michael to drink his blood, and we get into a cool kind of montage where there is a mosaic of Jim Morrison in the background of David's lair, and David's face is sweeping through it in like superimpositions. Meanwhile, Michael's face is being superimposed onto the face of Jim Morrison. And it's almost like throughout the history of teenage rebellion or like throughout the history of the teenage outsider, there is always this erotic and sadistic element, and that element is David. And Kiefer Sutherland, he has so much screen presence. He completely dominates the frame. And as David, I think he's never looked sexier. I also think he's never been more engaging, more intensely engaging. Like, there's a part of you that wants to be a part of David's gang. Absolutely. And Star being the star of David, there are so many ways to interact with David and with the film The Lost Boys. That's what really makes The Lost Boys so special. And David, I think, is the most valuable part of The Lost Boys. And if you haven't noticed, we've talked about outsiders a lot on this list. And outsider qualities are some of the most important qualities within a teen movie villain, because I think that villains should be sympathetic in a large way. And the outsider is the most sympathetic that a villain can be. He is too rebellious. They are too rebellious. They are too fierce, which makes them too youthful. Like they are too youthful. They are too teen movie. They are too much for our protagonist. And since a teen movie should largely be about coming of age, the protagonist has to be the one who makes that very difficult to happen. And with something like The Lost Boys, you get David who never wants to grow old. Never grow old, never die. At number four, we have Steph from Pretty in Pink, James Spader. Without Steph, we wouldn't have Chuck Bass from Gossip Girl. Without Steph, we wouldn't have a lot of the more erotic and entirely problematic teen villains that would follow. Steph, I think, is such a wonderful, like a wonderful, wonderful, flawless villain. I love James Spader in the role. I love him as the yuppie as the yuppie from hell, essentially. And also, you gotta love the eroticism within all of James Spader's roles, and you have to love the weird, predatory, problematic nature and psychopathic philosophy of Steph, and how it completely conflicts and clashes with Pretty in Pink's overall ethos of individualism, of originality, of celebrating nonconformity. A fun way to view Steph is as Blaine's Ducky, just like Andy had Ducky, who is like the ultimate symbol of rebellion, like rebellion without any breaks. That's who Ducky was. Blaine also has Steph, the ultimate symbol of conformity, the ultimate symbol of fascism in a very large way. And that's exactly who Steph is. And I think that the most cinematic part of the entire movie is when Ducky attacks Steph, defending Andy's honor. And that's where you get like the true the two core opposing philosophies of the film, conformity and nonconformity, battling each other. And conformity overtakes nonconformity very easily. And the film would follow suit as well, considering that Andy would end up with Blaine and not with Ducky. The film ultimately folds under the pressure to conformity. Steph is an outrageously extraordinary villain, and I love being in his orbit, being in his atmosphere. He's intoxicating. Everything that James Spader does is intoxicating, but what he did for the teen genre with Steph is just monumental. It's massively, massively significant. Not only to cinema itself, but to television of the future and to the culture of the 80s and to the culture of now, considering how influential Steph was as an 80s teen movie villain. And he's number 4 on my list of the top 10 teen movie villains. At number 3, we have Jill Roberts from Scream 4. You know how much I love the Scream series, and if I had to include one ghost face on a list of the top 10 teen movie villains, it would have to be Jill, because I think that Jill is possibly the most emblematic of teen violence, of teen philosophies and teen desires and wishes. Like, like Billy had some truly psychopathic, very cinematic motives for his killing spree. Mickey was in college, so he doesn't count, not necessarily. But Jill, I don't need friends, I need fans. I think that Jill perfectly sums up the end point of millennial philosophy at its worst, at its most pessimistic, at its most selfish, and at its most sociopathic. That's where we get Jill Roberts. And Scream 4 is a masterpiece. I love the film from beginning to end, and the best part about it is Emma Roberts in her flawless, stunning performance as Jill. Jill is so fucking cool. Jill is amazing. I think that one of the best parts of the entire Scream franchise is when she has to like injure herself badly in order to set the scene properly. Since Scream is a film about life imitating art, imitating life, and she has to play the role method. She has to damage herself, and she's running into walls, throwing herself into like glass tables and shit, damaging herself pretty fucking bad. I think that millennials are paying a huge price for being surrounded by so much cinematic media that they would do just about anything to have their cinematic moment, to make their lives more movie-like, because that's how we even think of memory. That's how we think of our own lives. And someone like Jill Roberts is that kind of post-structuralist concept, but with an absolutely lethal amount of mania applied to it. I think that Jill Roberts is the logical conclusion of millennial thoughts, millennial psychologies, millennial philosophies. I think that's exactly what Jill Roberts is. That's why Scream 4 is a horror movie, and it's why it's such an effective one, because Jill Roberts is not entirely disagreeable. There's a part of the millennial who will always view their life cinematically as if it's not exactly real, or as if it could be manipulated in a way that it has to do with composing your own existence, composing your own tragedy, composing your own hero's journey by becoming a raving madman. Jill Roberts, forever. At number 2, Catherine from Cruel Intentions. Sarah Michelle Gellar, take a fucking bow. You were, oh my God, bro. Bro, bro. Hottest movie character ever? Maybe. She's so evil and like so I'm about to say cruel. Obviously, it's called Cruel Intentions. Catherine is unbelievably captivating. Sarah's performance is so it's just everything. Everything is immaculate within that. I originally watched Cruel Intentions when I was way too young to watch it, and Sarah Michelle Gellar filled my innocent mind up with a slew of psychotic perversions. I was way too young. Sarah Michelle Gellar is so good in that movie, and Catherine, yes, she does. She does speak to uh the the selfish sexualities, to predatory, sexual nature of not only cinema, but I think of th the millennial spirit. Like, I think that Catherine is extraordinarily important. And unlike a lot of the villains on this list, she's not an outsider. She is the ultimate insider. Without Catherine, we wouldn't have shows like Gossip Girl. Without Catherine, we wouldn't have some of the more uh without Catherine, we wouldn't have the deeper kind of teen art that would follow. Catherine is absolutely wild. Everything about her is just absolute perfection. She's a pristine villain. She's like fucking perfect. Absolutely. I'm absolutely obsessed with her, and I've been for a very long time. Catherine really does speak to those those impulsive parts that are just so like reptilian in nature, so primal, so honestly gross and calculating. Cruel intentions made cruelty attractive. Between her and Ryan Phillippe's Sebastian, it's an extraordinarily, I think, seductive film in and of itself. And like Catherine is the seductress of the film's like very, very psychopathic philosophy. But through Catherine, you can absolutely become a true believer, become a convert to psychopathic sexual conquest. Catherine, you fucking rule. Number one, no surprises here, not if you follow my channel. Number one, Nancy Downs from The Craft. She's my favorite villain of all time, actually. I love her. She's the ultimate outsider, weaponized, punishing a universe that brutalizes young alternative girls. I think Nancy Downs has become a mascot of not only my YouTube channel, but a really good ideal, like the absolute representation of everything that teen TV, that teen films, that teen cinema, that teen narrative storytelling does right, and like why it's important because a character like Nancy Downs can exist. I have a whole video about why I think that Nancy Downs is the greatest villain of all time. Go watch it. Go watch that. She's got me in the center of her web, you know? I'm spellbound. I'm obsessed. I love her so much. You know, talk about dreamy. Oh my God. I want her to murder me, dude. I love, I love Nancy Downs. I think that all trailer park girls should be able to feel like a god or should be a god for just a day. I think they all deserve that. Anyways, that was my quick countdown of the top 10 teen movie villains. What did you think of my list? Do you think I missed any absolutely essential ones? Tell me, let me know in the comments. Do you disagree with any of mine? Let me know. Let me know these things. I've been your cult boyfriend. Thank you so much for watching me.